This roast chicken recipe isn't a normal one, but it's a great one. Once I perfected this recipe, there was no turning back. It uses simple techniques to achieve tender, juicy meat and crisp golden skin. And it only uses 4 ingredients, so it's pure, unadulterated chicken flavour. It's the closest I can get to a rotisserie style chicken at home, just using a regular oven. And as an added bonus, you'll get a byproduct of a homemade chicken stock from this recipe. So let's get into it. Here I have a whole chicken that's just under 1.5 kilos. I'll put the weight in pounds somewhere on the screen. So first I'm going to take the wings off. This is one of the steps that's going to help the chicken's skin crisp evenly. You see this part here? This gets shielded from the intense heat of the oven by the wing. And the skin in this area always comes out a bit flabby rather than crisp. So I like to remove them, and it's really simple to do. I just slice the skin where the elbow of the wing is, just here, bend the wing back until the elbow joint dislocates, and slice through the gap between the bones to free the wing. I'll show you what to do with the wings a bit later. Don't worry, they won't get wasted. Next, I take off what's known as the parson's nose. This is the tip of the tail. This part of the chicken is very fatty and can give the whole bird a bitter taste, so I like to take it off. And lastly, I'm going to remove the wishbone. This is completely optional and a bit fiddly, but it means the chicken is much easier to carve once roasted. So I'm just going to remove a little of this excess skin that was the neck, but not too much because it's going to shrink when it's roasting. Then I'm just feeling around for the 2 bones of the wishbone. Piercing the tip of my knife in behind, coming down and crunching through. Now for me, this is pretty awkward because I'm having to tell myself to keep my elbow up out of the way, so I'm not blocking the camera, like this. So this won't be the cleanest job I've ever done, but it will still work. Then the same on the other side, and then I'm just working up with the knife to the point where the 2 bones meet. Then you can pick up the chicken, give it a spin and a wiggle, and the bone will come free. So that's all of the knife work that I like to do with a chicken. And the next step is going to help me achieve 2 things. It's a simple traditional technique that people seem to have forgotten about, so I'm here to revive it. I'm just gently pushing my finger between the skin and the breast meat, and breaking the membrane that's connecting them. I'm going in from the neck end, and just working my way down across the meat, and over the tops of the legs as well, as far as I can reach without tearing the skin. So doing this is going to help the skin crisp up evenly across the chicken, because it gives a clear pathway for the fat to run between the meat and the skin. And it's going to allow me to season directly onto the meat, which is going to speed up the quick dry brine that I'm going to show you in the next step. Then I like to flip the chicken over, and entering from the neck end again, I do the same process, working my way down the spine of the chicken and over to where the legs are. Next up, this quick brine that I mentioned a moment ago. I like to lift the chicken up, open up the skin from the neck end, and sprinkle in a little salt. Then with my fingers, gently massage that salt into the meat, covering the whole breast and as far as I can reach onto the leg as well. Then flip it over and do the same on the other side. This side is a little harder because the opening is smaller, but I'm just working my way down and getting as much onto the bottom side of the leg as I can. That's all the raw prep that I do for my roast chicken. Now I can leave it to brine for at least 30 minutes or anywhere up to 12 hours. I'm going to go for around an hour. Working in kitchens is tough. The challenges chefs face on a daily basis are incredible. The endless hours, the late nights, the long weekends, these are hard enough by themselves, but then they have a ripple effect into life at home as well. Juggling the demands of work and the needs of a relationship isn't easy, and I know I'm not the only one who feels this pressure. That's why I chose to ignore the stigma that comes with acknowledging and addressing mental health in the catering industry. And I decided to talk to someone, and it changed my life. My paid partner BetterHelp connected me with a therapist who helped me find some answers to some of these challenges I was facing. Instead of being stuck in an endless loop of questioning myself, I talked through my concerns with someone who's trained to help find real answers. The process of getting started is really straightforward. Get matched with a therapist after completing a quick questionnaire, easily switch therapists at no extra cost if it's not the right time. They carefully make sure therapists on the platform are well qualified. And their customer support team is there to help you if you have any questions. With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.5 rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is a platform you can trust. Going to therapy is a sign of strength, not weakness. Click the link in the description below, or go to betterhelp.com/Ben Gossork to get 10% off your first month of therapy. Okay, so whilst that's brining, let me introduce what I think is the key to this roast chicken method: a chicken stock. Like I mentioned earlier, this method will give you a perpetual stock as a kind of byproduct. But don't worry about that for the minute, I'll fill in the blanks a bit later. All you need to worry about now is that you've got enough chicken stock to submerge the whole chicken in. So 1.5 litres to 2 litres should be enough with the right size saucepan. If you haven't got any homemade chicken stock available, then you can just get this method started using chicken bouillon or another off-the-shelf product that you like using. And as you use this roast chicken method more, your stock will get better and better. So I'm just placing the stock onto a medium heat to get it simmering for when I need it in a moment. My chicken has had its hour of brining. It's time for the next step. This is where this recipe goes off the beaten path, but stick with me because it's going to be worth it. I'm placing the chicken into the lightly simmering stock for 15 minutes. This is achieving a few things. It's going to tighten up the skin and get it pulling the whole bird together, kind of like what we would try to achieve when tying a chicken in the more traditional recipes. It's also going to soften the skin and render some of the chicken fat, as well as beginning to gently cook the meat. So there's a few things going on in this poaching step. Importantly, I'm making sure the pan is just simmering and not boiling. Okay, so 15 minutes later, my chicken is ready to come out. When taking it out, I'm being really careful not to break the skin. So I'm using my silicone-tipped tongs and being as gentle as possible. I'm placing it onto the rack over the tray. Now I just want to leave it to sit for 20 minutes, to steam off and dry out that skin. You can see now how the chicken's appearance has completely changed. It almost looks like a cartoon version of a roast chicken. The legs have pulled up close to the body. It's kind of like the whole bird has been shrink wrapped by its own skin. This is going to be great for roasting because it's going to give me a much more even cook from breast to leg. And clearly you can now see how exposed the part is where the wing used to be. I'm going to get fully crisp skin here rather than rubbery, flabby skin. So I'm just going to leave this chicken to sit on the side and I'm going to come back to it in 20 minutes. As for the stock, just bring it back to a simmer for 10 minutes to kill any bacteria that may be left over from the raw chicken, and I'll show you what else you can do to get more out of this stock later. At this stage of the video, I need to introduce my Achilles heel for this recipe. You see, I'm filming this in an Airbnb, and in the advert for this apartment, it said it had an oven. When I arrived, I found this. I suppose it is technically an oven, it's just not what I was expecting. So I decided to take on the challenge. I'm preheating it to 220°C, so it's ripping hot for when the chicken goes in. Okay, the chicken has had its 20 minutes of resting, and I'm ready for the next step. It feels dry to the touch. This is a good sign to give me the greatest chance for maximum golden skin. I'm adding a small amount of olive oil and using a brush to get it covering every part of the chicken. And this could be chicken fat or any other type of fat that you like to use. Then I'm adding a small amount of salt evenly across the surface of the skin. This is also going to help to crisp it up. Then flipping the chicken over, exactly the same on the other side. And this is a side I'm going to start roasting on, spine facing up, the opposite to the majority of other recipes out there. And as for the leftover trim from earlier, I'm going to roast the wings on the tray with the chicken. But as for the parson's nose and any skin that I trimmed off, I just get rid of them. They have no good flavour and they're very fatty. Then that's going into my oven that's at 220°C for 15 minutes. Because I want to try to mimic what happens with rotisserie chicken when it's cooking, albeit in a very basic way, I'm going to turn this chicken every 15 minutes. This is going to naturally baste it as it cooks. and give me the greatest chance for 360-degree golden skin. So after 15 minutes I'm flipping it over. Not much fat has come out onto the tray yet, so there's nothing to baste with, but hopefully there will be on the next flip. Back in for another 15 minutes. 15 minutes later and it's the next flip. This flipping every 15 minutes is doing more than just crudely mimicking a rotisserie. With any run-of-the-mill roast chicken method, I generally wouldn't go above 180 Celsius in my oven, because this top part of the breast and this top part of the leg tend to get hit with the most heat. Therefore, they become very dry. So this regular flipping and moving is allowing these parts to have some protection from the extreme temperature of the oven when the chicken is upside down. This means I'm able to push the oven temp up to 220 to give me that golden skin that I want. But I've still got to be vigilant and make sure I'm not overcooking the meat. Then back in for another 15 minutes. And after an hour and 10 minutes of 220-degree roasting, my chicken is ready. The deepest part of the breast is reading 80 Celsius. The skin is golden and crispy all over, and it's looking incredible. Now this next step always ruffles a few feathers, but I think it's crucial in order to get tender, juicy meat, and that's to rest the chicken for at least half the cooking time. A lot of people don't like doing this step, I think for a few reasons. They don't want to wait for an extra 30 to 45 minutes. Maybe they're scared the chicken will be cold by the end, which it won't by the way. Or is that the skin loses some of its crispness. The skin will lose some of this, but I want tender, juicy meat, and I'm willing to sacrifice some crispness for this. Around half an hour later, I'm ready to eat. Because I removed the wishbone earlier, I can get nice long slices from the breast, without hitting any bones. The meat is tender, the skin has an incredible flavour. This is a 10 out of 10 roast chicken, only using 4 ingredients: water, salt, fat, and crucially, a chicken. And lastly, to get the most out of your stock, collect together the carcass and any other parts left over like the wings, place them in the stock and simmer it for a few hours. Then you can just remove the bones, chill or freeze the stock depending on how often you want to use it. And after a few roast chickens using this method, you'll have a flavourful brown chicken stock that you can then divide into 2, keep one half for your roast chicken and just top it up with water until you have enough to cover the bird. And you can use the other half as a soup base or for a sauce, a casserole, whatever else you like. This is a great way to keep a perpetual stock going. If you want to know how you can make a tasty, quick sauce from what's stuck to this tray after roasting, then watch this video next.